Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're chatting with Brye Ponto, an experienced hospitality professional skilled in event planning, customer service, social media, and brand development. She holds a BA in English language and literature from the University of Alberta. So first of all, welcome to the show, Brye. And do you want to start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing?
Of course. Well, I started in hospitality when I was 16, when I was going to U of A. I started, your regular, entry serving job at Earls. I was actually with Earls for about 10 years.
Okay.
Disappointed my mom kind of when I was like, thank you for my degree. I'm going to now, I want to move up in restaurants. She didn't love her 40, her tuition going down the drain. But so I just loved it. I just kept working my way up, moved to Winnipeg for a bit, moved out to Toronto, opened up all the Earls out there, and then finally found my passion to fine dining. So I did casual. And I flew around and did a lot of training for Earls, a lot of openings. So that was a large passion of mine as well. And then I moved back to Calgary when I had my daughter in 2015 to be back home. And then I just continued on and just moving my way up from, shift leaders to lounge leaders to assistant general managers to general managers. And then during COVID, obviously restaurant workers, as was everybody, kind of given a shake to reality. And I was really burned out from working 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, missing time with my family. And
Well, especially with a young daughter at that time as well, right? Well, she's still young, but
absolutely. Yeah, it was. And my mom got cancer and my dad died. And it was a whole re-perspective on life. And I think if you were lucky to walk out of COVID with this kind of appreciation of what's important, and I very much realized during that time that it was my family. And so I left the industry for about a year, and then this opportunity came up to work at the Dorian Hotel in Courtyard downtown. It's a dual property, and I never worked in hotels before, so I applied, and a week later, an offer in my hands, and here we are 1 year later.
Interesting. Yeah. What's kind of the passion driving that hospitality industry, whether it's on the restaurant side or now with the Dorian?
It was always, for me, it was always training. That's what got me into this. It was just teaching others. And it was, first of all, teaching 18-year-olds how to serve many years ago. When I was hired here, it was to be the general manager of the Wild. And then I ran the Wild and Prologue, and now I'm the director in food and beverage. So it was a quick, very fast transition up this past year. And now I'm obviously overseeing a very, very large everything food and beverage in this hotel. But now it's a whole different level because this is obviously the highest position I've been. So it was training, it was creating training manuals, it was imparting this just incredible passion that I have for eating out, for food. And then now it's, definitely shifted into imparting that not only on the associates here, but also on my supervisor team. So I had to find one supervisor, promote from within to kind of build this team around me. So it still is that. It still is imparting people just understanding what we do is not heart surgery, but on the other side of the equation, it's so important, especially when guests here are spending incredible amounts of money on a hotel night stay. So it's a lot bigger picture, but it still is very simple, is just to create a great experience at the end of the day.
Yeah. And for those maybe that aren't, I think most people will be familiar with the Dorian, but for those that aren't, can you maybe explain the level of the hotel?
Of course. We were a brand new build downtown, 5th and 5th. PBA freshly built this building. We are contracted
pretty recently too, right?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
We just had our second birthday on Sunday, actually. And so
happy birthday.
Thank you. it's been a long, to kind of get our feet, our stamp in Calgary. So we're a boutique hotel. It's a Marriott property. So the Dorian Sides and Autograph Collection, which is every autograph collection has to be unique worldwide. Nothing can be the same. And then the courtyard obviously is for our business travelers. So we get a leisure traveler and a business traveler. And so they understood that having one type of hotel downtown wouldn't capture as large of an audience. So they built this dual property. And we're managed by Concord Hospitality out of North Carolina, not the Concord group we all kind of know in Calgary, but yeah.
I have stayed at your hotel many, many times, probably 15, 16.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, awesome. It's kind of it's actually now my go-to hotel in Calgary. And I will say this, and this is not a plug for you. I'm being honest on this one. I do it because the service. So I stay at Marriott's most of the time because you get a higher level of service, and there's a little bit of a premium for sure on that. But I know that anytime I've ever had an issue, it's been resolved, and I've asked for some really crazy things before, and they've always been resolved. So I will say this, that the hotel is fantastic. I've also dined there many times, and the food's always been fantastic as well. So not an intentional plug. I'm just sharing my experience on that. But
I'll pay you later. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. What's the difference between your restaurant experience from the Earls side? And Earls, for those that don't know, is from a corporate level. And this is just, hearsay on my part. I've never been part of Earls before, but I think it's incredibly well run from a corporate perspective, and they have very high-end restaurants. What's the difference between that restaurant world and the hotel world?
Well, that was the transition. And so normally they'll always hire internal hotel leaders to do this. So they have not often hired outside. So coming into this with the outside knowledge. So I had done budgeting and, kind of done things that when I came here, leaders were kind of never taught to do that. So I brought in the financial background that I had, but also it was looking at the wild as that's where I started. Yes, it is a hotel restaurant, and Toronto, when you look at hotel restaurants, it's a thing out there. People will go to Shangri-La, they'll go to the Fairmont to dine at hotels, and it's not. It hasn't. Now it is finally, luckily, catching on in Calgary, but it was a whole new. They knew that they needed to kind of bring outside in because they wanted this to be bigger than just a guest restaurant and at the level of dining that the Wild is. So that was, I came in to look at it, especially from, independent, where my liquor vendor relationships and my brewery relationships, and they were serving main brands of beer, and I was like, no, let's do a collaboration with 88. I brewed my beer with 88 Brewing, and it's
and 88 sorry, is out of Calgary for those that don't know.
On Portland, and it's one of Calgary's best breweries. But it was also, I changed the beer to local. Like, why would we serve Bud when we can serve these amazing Calgary brands? So there was a little bit of insight that way, but it was also there's my training knowledge, to bring it in. So it was a lot outside, but it was obviously a great learning curve to learn hotel branding. And there were some courses that I took to kind of get myself familiarized, especially with you're kind of used in restaurants to be you do it all in independent restaurants. Whereas I have a team that does sales. I have a team that does marketing now. And so it's a lot more collaborative. And so you really can focus on what you're great at, rather than having your kind of fingers in 10 different pots. So it's the team here is amazing. So
Oh, that's great. I will say this from the beer perspective, and I think a lot of people will share this with me. I am a beer connoisseur. I like craft beer. I like all of that. I know all the kind of the local breweries and whatnots. And when you go into a restaurant that has those local craft beers, that's what people like me crave, right? And whether I'm in Calgary or Vancouver, Toronto, or Portland, or I want the local stuff, right? Because you can always buy a Coke or a Bud or whatever. But to be able to have the local content of it is I think a really important experience to have at a place like that, like the Dorian, right?
Absolutely. And when I brewed this beer with them, it's co-labeled, and it's also to know that you're giving money to a local business where there's stories like the local breweries. I have yet to come across one where it's not a really cool story.
Yeah.
It's three guys out of a basement or a garage that literally pumped all their money into their passion. So to know that your money actually goes towards that and be part of the community in Calgary that's also
Yeah.
a great thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So earlier you said you disappointed your mom. So let's talk about this a little bit. So you went to school
Yeah.
for English and literature,
Yeah.
probably very different than what you're doing now. And by the way, I actually failed English in high school. I had to ask my teacher to give me a passing grade. I was a pretty good student in high
Yeah.
school, but I couldn't do English. I was at 48%. I had to give him a passing grade or ask him for a passing grade. So I don't understand why anybody would ever go into that. But you obviously chose that as your education
I did.
point.
Yeah.
And how did that transition happen? And you've gone into it a little bit, but how do you get from there to there? Those are two very different things.
I know. I wanted to be a writer. That's from probably the age of 8. So I was a food critic for a little bit, and while I was going to school, I was a massive reader, and I was published as a kid. So my drive just for creativity was there since I was a little kid, and so when I also was writing like theater previews, art previews. So, and then the food critic, I could have done that for my living, and that would have been, but it just wasn't paying the bills. It's
Yeah.
really hard, and so at first, because and the reading and the grammar, and it's funny enough now that I actually edit everything that goes through this hotel now. So
So it
it
is paying off.
it
Yeah.
has brought me
Take
here
that, mom.
totally. The wild menu is I've broken out the dinner menu into epilogue, prologue. It takes I've read Oscar Wilde, so I've taken that knowledge that I have, and so now it's a literary theme upstairs, and so I have used it. Yes, everything I edit, I will catch, and I'm very word focused. So when we're using descriptions or into any marketing. Um, that goes out all the menus that I do for this hotel. So it does help me now, and I love it. And when I could finally tell my mom that when I told her I was going to work for Marriott, which she loves, when I say that I disappointed my mom, she was like, "What are you doing?" Because she and my sister worked for Joey's for years, so she had 2 kids that were in hospitality, and
Yeah.
the stories we shared with her, she was like her jaw would hit the ground with all the the hospitality stories from like great to like holy crap,
Yeah. Yeah.
and us missing holidays, and it
Yeah.
was not this thing. But when she finally understood that, I finally got to a point in my career where I don't have to work nights. I get the time with my daughter. I can work days, and finally have made it to this point in my career. She is, of course, proud of me. I love my mom, and she
Yeah.
supports me whatever I do. But she just saw that big check go out the window while I was like
Yeah.
in restaurants. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So your daughter's 8 or 9 now?
9, just turned 9.
9, just turned 9. Yeah. And you just pointed out there that now you're not working the nights and whatnot. But before that, what was that like having to try to raise a child and go through that career?
So I'm also like a true single mom. So
Yeah.
that whole perspective of loving what you do and having a kid was an incredible mountain that I had to climb, because
Yeah.
you in restaurants you're looking at every day is problem solve. It's a sense of completion. You have checklists and you get to complete them, and to switch off from that to take I think I did 9 months off because I couldn't do the full year sitting at home. But that instant gratification you get, and the busyness, the adrenaline we have every day, to sitting there and holding a baby for 9 months, it
Mhm.
was trying to get that part of me back. It was very hard,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning when I'm working. I opened up the Guild downtown at the time when she was a newborn, and I was
Okay.
working at probably 70 hours a week. So it was hard, and having
But
sitters
by the
and
way, not to pump another thing, but I've been there many times. Awesome place. Awesome place.
so yeah, it
Granted,
was
Glenn, you can pay me after. It's okay. Yeah.
your checks in the mail. So it was hard for me because I was never a sit at home mom, and that's never what I wanted to do. And trying to find the
Yeah.
balance between loving what you do and trying to raise a kid, it was, I don't even know how I did it, but I did it. And now, she wants to, when I retire, she told me she's already going to take over what I do. Um, we cook together. Her palate is stunning. She's very thankful now. It's a good age. Hopefully, she won't remember all the times that I missed.
Yeah.
But I can't have guilt over that, or else I'll just,
Yeah.
because I just did it, and now she knows everybody here, and everyone loves her, and she's gets to try out all. Every time we launch anything here, she eats. And so
Wow.
yeah, she's like turning into a little foodie. Yeah,
That's amazing. I have a 6 and a 4-year-old, and
yeah.
they won't eat anything. My 6-year-old, she'll eat more than my little guy will, but yeah, they don't really eat anything. So I would love to have a conversation about just how you got that to go, because if it's not like pancakes or a peanut butter sandwich or chicken nuggets, it's not a thing.
No, she hasn't eaten off a kids menu in actually probably 3 years, and
Oh,
we go for sushi. She loves mussels. Well, she had the
wow.
tasty menu in the wild for my birthday, and she's like, she just loved the 7 courses. It's
Wow.
hilarious, and I love that because I was never gonna be that chicken finger mom, so I
Yeah. Yeah.
just kept feeding her what I was eating, and it's great.
Wow. And was that all it was? You just kept feeding her this, and
Yeah.
if you don't eat this, then that's it, or
Well, I never said that. I just because I get really excited about food. It's not like
yeah,
I put it down. Food's not a necessity for me. It's like I get
yeah,
super pumped about
the
farmers markets.
passion.
Yeah, we do that
Yeah.
all the time. We go to the farmers market. We pick what we're gonna eat. We cook together. She's got the kitchen lingo like behind and knife out, and she's got all that. But she sees also when she comes here, she sees how much fun we have and the
Yeah.
energy that's in this building. And so it was never, oh, here's your dinner, eat it. It was like I was always so excited about it. I'm excited to eat all the time.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it was just that maybe. Yeah.
Just being a foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where do you think that food passion came for you?
I really have no idea. What we mentioned, I grew up in Brooks, very meat and potatoes as a kid. My
Yeah.
dad hunted. My mom made, she's going to kill me if she ever sees this, but like tuna casserole. Ooh.
Yeah.
Um, and we just had steak and potatoes. Like Brooks didn't have at that time. It was under 10,000 people. There was no
Yeah.
a steak dinner was a night out. Boston pizza in that time used to be fancy. So I have no idea where it came from. I wanted to go to, all these amazing restaurants, but Toronto, that blew my mind when I moved out there in 2010. It was like a whole new and I just became friends with chefs, and it was just, I think that's where I was like, oh my God, because Alberta was still very Earls, Joey's, Moxie's.
Yeah.
My mind it blew my mind eating out there. And then
Yeah.
I went to Per Se, and I was like 26 and I went to Per Se. I just saved up. It was just stuff that I've read all the books. Anthony
Mm.
Bourdain and Marcus Samuelson. I love reading that kind of stuff. So it was in watching, I am a Food Network pro. I love watching the Food Network. So it was
Yeah.
just, I loved watching what we all did for a living. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's interesting. And it's funny with food. I always think of food as like it's almost a mix between art and science behind
Yeah.
it, because there is a science behind it. I mean, baking is more science based, but
Yeah.
there's still a science behind food, but it also adds that art touch to it, and you can
It
get pretty
does.
creative with some cool stuff.
But it's also memories. And when you
Yeah.
think about people that come, and most of our memories are actually scent based.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you think about why it's so important, and this is also what I explain to people, is people aren't coming out to eat. Yes, they are, but it's why they are, and that you become a memory. And that's where I think food is memory. It's when you look at something and you're like, oh my God, I had this delicious this, but I also was out
Yeah.
with my
Yeah.
partner, or my family. And so that's the other part that we have to wrap our head around in hospitality, is that you're creating these experiences and these memories that people hold on to. But food gathers people. It brings people together. I just think it's a whole magic part of it that, unless you really kind of sit down and think about it, but when you host, your friends over for dinner, or, yeah, I think food brings people together, and I just
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
Well, it's one thing that we can all agree on, right? Is food, right? We all need to eat.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things that brings people together.
Yeah.
What do you think, like if you had advice or somebody that maybe wants to follow in your footsteps, right? Like there are people that eh, don't necessarily go and get English degrees, but they say, I want to go in this hospitality industry and I want
Yeah.
to advance there. What do you think some of the skills that you have that have helped you succeed in this field?
Well, the number one thing is it takes time. It takes time
Yeah.
to gather all these skills. A lot of people go to hospitality school, and that's great. You learn a little bit part of the business. I never did that. A large part of our industry, actually, unless you're in culinary, I
Yeah.
never went to school to do this. It's not to say it's probably one of the rare industries where you could actually earn that by just working. So
Yeah.
you have both those avenues. It's good now. Um, to have that background for the schooling. But, you know, you have to remember that every day it's like Disneyland, when they have those on the doors before you walk out, is you're on stage. And that's what
Yeah.
this business is, and everyone's watching you. And so you need to understand that it's not about you. You need to put all ego aside, and on how much you impact other people. So you have to have passion and drive, because I can sense that when I go to a restaurant in about 3.5 seconds. Um,
Yeah.
so that's it too. Bartending, to have that mixology background. I have my sister own, like I'm a beer sommelier, if you want to call it. So going and getting those courses, like your W set, is incredible. There's
Mm.
also alcohol W sets you can take for spirits, and so understanding the spirit side of things is also important. But you have to have drive. You have to absolutely love dealing with people, because that's not
Yeah.
everyone's cup of tea either. So, I mean, it took me years to not take people's stuff home with me. Your cup gets emptied a lot in
Yeah.
this industry. You come home and you're like, I've been
Yeah.
pulled every way. So,
There's always Karens out there, right? Am I allowed to say that? Yeah, I could say that.
I would make
We'll leave it at that.
stories for you that your toes would curl. Um, but it takes a long time. Like I would, to work through the ranks to get all the experience that you need. But once you finally get up
Yeah.
and truly understand what a leader is, and that's probably the hardest thing to wrap your head around, is like, as a server, I was always like, but I know everything. I'm making the most money on the floor. I'm doing all this. Why aren't they promoting me? Why aren't they
Yeah.
putting me up? You need to wrap your head around what it means to be a leader. And it sure as heck isn't just because you have a card that you can swipe through POS
Yeah.
and you sit at your office all day. I hate office work. I want to be on the floor. The higher up you get, the more you're running the kind of restaurant behind the doors. But you need to wrap your head around, read books on how to be a leader, how to lead people, how to make them, you want to work with them. You're not telling them what to do. But the whole leader part, to take leader courses, I think that would be the most valuable, on how to speak with people, the vernacular that you use, and make them want to be there and make them want to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. Sorry, what was the word that you said for the beer sommelier kind of alternative?
Cicerone. You can take it's
Interesting. Yeah.
on beer production. It's like a W set, but for beer. There's a
Okay.
like master level. I don't
Yeah.
have that, but I love viticulture in wine, and that's kind of where also um, I started off as a wine director in Toronto, and that's where I got. So
Mm.
now at this hotel, I choose all the wine, and spirits, and all that for the hotel, and all the beer, and
Yeah.
I write all
Cool.
those menus as part of my job. So I basically drink for a living, which everyone makes fun of me, because when I'm down in one of the restaurants, I'm like, I'm just doing a wine tasting. um,
I'm
but
getting
yeah,
paid to drink right now.
I'm just launching the new mini bar menu, so I had to taste all the new spirits for the mini bar for
That's
the room.
awesome.
So yeah.
You, You know, when like the universities or colleges or whatever, they'll give like the honorary degrees
Yeah.
to people. I feel like I deserve an honorary beer sommelier. Again, I can't remember the word you said, but I think
Cicerone.
I deserve
Cicerone. Yeah.
Cicerone. I
Yeah.
feel like I deserve one of those honorary degrees in that because I have tried as many as I can possibly have of craft beer. So
Well, once you
for
learn
better
about
or
the
for worse.
hops and the barley and production and
Yeah.
a lot between lagers and ales, and it's harder to make a lager like those beers are, like, than it is to make a, an
Yeah.
IPA or, but I find it so interesting with yeast, and it's boring to others, but I love to know how they make wine, whether they're watering the soil, dry irrigation, whether, how much they're pruning. I find
Yeah.
viticulture and all that very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What's your favorite wine, beer, and spirit?
Spirit, probably be bourbon.
You have a particular brand?
Elijah Craig.
I don't know
I
if
also
I've had
like
that one.
I also like little books, also quite nice.
Mm.
Wine. Everyone makes fun of me because the reserve list at the Wild is basically everything that I picked, and it's a big Napa cab. So I like big, dry, suck your face off tannic red wines from
Like a
Napa
Cab
Valley.
Sav kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice, big, bold, and it just hits you right
Yeah.
here, all the
I
tannins. Yeah,
like that too. Yeah. It's perfect.
yeah. And beer. I used to drink IPAs like when IPAs were kind of a hit,
Yeah.
2017, they kind of had
Yeah.
their massive peak, the bitter. So they usually say how you like your coffee is how you like your wine, is how you like your spirit. So if you're an espresso person, you like then a bitter beer, then you like this. So I've kind of moved to lagers now. I love 88's cassette lager. It's crushable, it's light. Um, it's really easy to drink. It kind of cleans your palate off. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely trying more of those now. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. And again, this is going to sound like a plug, but I bought a case of that last night.
Cassette.
The cassette. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at this as we could
I really like the 88 cassettes.
tell the
Yeah.
guys at 88 that we're also promoting them. That's great.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. This is not a plug. We're not getting paid for this. I promise that. The last question I'll ask you here is growing up, like when you're 6 or 7, I don't envision many 6 or 7 year old girls saying, I want to be running the food and beverage of a big hotel and some fancy hotel. What really brought you into this field? Like what drove that for you?
Well, I knew very early on that I did not want to sit at a desk. Like
Yeah.
that I knew as a kid. But because I like the teaching part of it, when I was a little kid, uh oh, I don't even remember. I remember like at 8 or 9 wanting to be a writer. Like that's been in my head uh
Yeah.
since I was writing stories at a very, very young age. But because of the teaching stuff as I got older, the reason why I went to school to do that was also be a writer, but I also was like, I want to get my doctorates in English, and I wanted to
Mm.
teach university English was what I wanted. And then I realized just starting at Earl, I had so much fun as a server be at 18. Every day was not the same. I loved the adrenaline. I loved the money I was making. Uh, I didn't save any
Yeah.
of
Of
it. So, I mean, there's also
course. Yeah.
hindsight, but it was every day was so exciting, and you found people that were hospitality people. We're all kind of cut from the same cloth. We're extroverts, yet when we go home, we're introverts. High levels of anxiety, little bit of OCD, um, and we love to drink and eat food. So it was, yeah, that's it was. My eyes just went boing, and I was like, I love this. And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, instant money in your pocket, and then we all spent it and went out. And there was, it was so either you quickly realize that around 26 is like that. Okay, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
And all of us that chose to kind of continue on, you had to eventually like cut all that crap out and go, you know what,
Yeah.
this is what I
You
want to
can't
do.
drink
Or,
every night kind of thing. Yeah.
oh yeah, like I don't do that anymore. I do love to drink a glass of wine with my director of ops, but or you chose to lock it in and actually become a professional server. And
Yeah.
Calgary has some very fantastic venues
Mhm.
with some just amazing servers that chose to make
Amazing.
this their career. So
Yeah.
what I love to see now, Toronto, that's very prevalent, and I'm seeing more of it here.
Yes.
So um those somebody to learn from, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know I said that was the last question, but now I want to know on the writing side, what are you going to write? When's the book coming out?
When's the book coming out? You know, what's funny is I've had a book going on about this industry,
Oh,
oddly
cool.
enough. And I started another novel when I was probably young, and I still haven't got back to it yet. But I've wanted to do one kind of like a very not crass, but very real,
Yeah.
not sugar coated, not just like a real experience. I'm not trying to, beautify it. There are some beautiful moments in what we do, but there's also
Hmm.
some not so beautiful moments, but they're still beautiful too, right? So it's looking back and you're like, oh, you still think, oh my God, I forgot that ketchup today, or I forgot this. And we all have our work mirrors that we go through. But when you come out of it, when you can see the big picture, and when you're not in it as a young 18-year-old, you can
Yeah.
look back and go, but every single one of those moments brought me here. So that's also a good thing. You learn so much. So yeah,
Oh, that's great.
hopefully.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. First of all, I look forward to when the book comes out, and you're gonna have to send me a message and
Yeah.
let me know. I'll certainly buy one of those.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to learn more about what you're doing or connect with you, where would they go for that?
Well, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and then obviously calling the Dorian Hotel main line and asking for me, they'll buzz you right up to my office. Um, and yeah, those probably the two, or just come see me at the Dorian. Yeah.
Awesome. And for those that have not been to the Dorian, it is an awesome hotel. It's very unique. It's very like classy. It's a pretty cool space. So
Yeah.
again, I guess another plug. No, we do need
Yeah,
to
it's
get
based
paid
off
for
of Oscar
this.
Wilde's A Dorian Gray. That's where our inspiration came from. Yeah.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, certainly appreciate you being on the show today, Bree, and had a lot of fun learning about what you're doing. And I tell you what, next time I'm in Calgary, which is probably just a couple weeks from now, I will probably be at the Dorian, and I'm
Sounds
going
good.
to personally hunt you down, and we'll have a face-to-face chat.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.